But once again, another time allocation motion. Bill number 139. You know, listen, 2 years ago, the Minister of Northern Development, Mines and Forestry launched this much publicized bill to reform mining in Ontario. And at his opening, the opening launch, he bent over backwards, telling everybody how he was going to listen to everyone and all stakeholders would be heard, that the process was to be open and transparent, and it would result in a Mining Act reforms that would be balanced and bring Ontario into the 21st century. Well, now we have a glimpse and a good look at what the Liberal vision is for Ontario in the 21st century. Stifling of discussion, killing debate, and bringing in time allocation motions, as the Minister bends over backwards from the criticisms of this bill. He did not listen, he did not consult, he created a circus of illusion with Bill 173, and as people voice their opposition to this bill, he runs away from honest and open discussion and into another time allocation bill. The whole process has been a sham, and this committee that has been hearing from people on Bill 173, maybe I should just bring forth, put a few facts on the table, put a few facts on the record so that the people of Ontario know what has been heard in those committee rooms. Bill McRae from the Porcupine Prospector stated, extensive consultation did not happen. It jeopardizes security of title, and that this act will harm small prospectors. That's what one of the prospectors organizations said. And listen, there has been opposition from all quarters on this bill. The Pick River delegation, Pick River First Nations, said the meetings were contrived. This is, you're talking about the workshops that were ahead of time, and the questions were spoon-fed. The KI First Nations band stated that their greatest challenge is with this government, and that these committee hearings are a mockery. A mockery. The Attawapiskat First Nation stated, Bill 173 is flawed. It's a regulatory mess, and that it is insulting. That's what the stakeholders in this open, transparent, and balanced Mining Act are saying about this Liberal administration and their push for Bill 173. I'm going to talk about a few things that people have said during these committee hearings, just so that everybody again clearly understands what they're facing with this Liberal administration. During the committee hearings, 5 members of the Liberal government were in those committee hearings as we were doing clause by clause. Only one member of that Liberal committee said a word. 4 of them sat silent through 10 hours of debate and discussion on clause by clause. 4 of them did nothing except the trained mechanism of voting as they were told to vote. That's the sort of representation that this Liberal, arrogant Liberal administration is providing to the people of Ontario. When people elect representatives, they expect them to have a say and to advocate for their concerns, to hear and be considerate of those concerns, not to be deaf, mute, and blind to their concerns as the members of this committee have. Once again, one member of the Liberal committee was the only one. He was the designated mouthpiece for the minister. And listen, I can go on, and I will go on, to put a few more facts on the record for the people of Ontario to judge this Liberal government by. OREA, the Ontario Real Estate Association, notes that Bill 173, as set out in Section 2, does not mention or affirm the rights of surface rights owners. Therefore, we strongly recommend that Section 2 be amended to include wording that recognizes and affirms the rights of property owners, as has been done with Aboriginal and treaty rights. They go on, OREA believes that property rights of farm owners deserve the same level of protection that was initially granted under the original Mining Act and that is now afforded to other property owners under Section 29. OREA is also concerned about the arbitrary powers given to the Directors of Exploration in Section 78. So let's say this. The prospectors, the First Nations, the Ontario Real Estate Association have all mentioned and expressed their reservations and their concerns with this bill. What has the Liberal government done about those concerns? Nothing. Nothing. They have been a sham. All these people who came to these committee hearings to bring their thoughts forward with the expectation that a democratic government would listen to them and that they would take those concerns, those legitimate and those justifiable concerns, back to thoughtful deliberations. It did not happen. All those people who came to these committees were duped by this Liberal administration. So what NAN First Nations had to say? They have great concerns because it does not go far enough to seek proper and informed consent. And I'm going to speak to that in a little bit as well. That is why we object to this bill, and that is the message that I'm delivering to you today. That's what NAN First Nations said at our committee hearings. But also, how about some of the other stakeholders? Maybe De Beers. Everybody in this province may know who De Beers is. I'm sure a few people in the Liberal Party do. We believe, this is what De Beers said at their representation. We believe Bill 173 and 191 together will introduce additional layers of uncertainty, bureaucracy, and financial burden on the industry. Absolutely shameful. That's what De Beers wanted. They also went on to say there is no clarity in this bill regarding the definition of what comprises an exploration plan, the definition of community consultation, the expected administrative timelines of the additional steps in that process. They also went on to say there is no clarity regarding the ability to appeal any additional terms imposed by the Director of Exploration, and that industry requires certainty in order to justify the significant investments required to find, assess, and develop an open mine. That's what De Beers. So we'll put that in the same pile with the Ontario Real Estate Association. Put it in the same pile with NAN and KI First Nations. And we can start seeing a trend developing here. The pile of opposition is getting bigger and bigger. And of course, what do Liberals do when there's opposition to their ill thought out legislation? Well, first off, let's make it appear that they're listening, and then let's bring in closure when people